My name is Charles Harrell. I'm with the Veterans History Project. I'm in Silver Springs, Maryland at the Hilton Hotel, interviewing Mr. Spencer Moore. It is October 7th, 2006. Mr. Moore, for the record, would you state your full name?
Spencer Clayton Moore II.
And what is your current address? Would that be 211 North White Horse Pike?
Yes.
Magnolia, New Jersey?
Yes.
08049?
Check.
Where were you born, Mr. Spencer?
Mr. Moore.
Mr. Moore, I'm sorry.
Magnolia, New Jersey.
And when were you born?
January 28, 1922.
What branch of service were you in?
Army.
And do you remember the company that you served with?
Which company? I was an enlisted person, and I got commissioned officer, and I served in different companies. I was a National Guardsman in 1940 in the first black National Guard outfit in the state of New Jersey.
And what outfit was that?
That was the 372nd, 1st Battalion, 372nd Infantry, New Jersey National Guard.
Was it attached to a division at that time?
No.
After you served with the National Guard, did they transfer you to another?
We got called to active duty in March 1941.
And
We had 9 months or a year completed when they bombed Pearl Harbor.
what was your highest rank that you achieved in the military?
In the military was the captain,
And during World War II?
second lieutenant.
When you were, which unit were you in for most of your time?
92nd Infantry Division.
Were you attached to any regiment in the 92nd?
I was in 370th Infantry Regiment.
Did you enlist or were you drafted?
I enlisted
And do you remember when you enlisted in the National Guard?
September the 10th, 1940.
And when were you finally released from your Army career?
26th of November 19. Oh, I'm sorry. I was when I got released from active duty, 1945. I retired as a captain in September 1961,
So you were a career man.
more or less.
Which wars did you serve in?
This World War II. But during the Cold War, I was one of the National Guard units that was called up to operate a missile site for the defense of Philadelphia during the Cold War
And that's during the 50s?
in 1950. Let's see, 1955 until 1961.
You mentioned you were in Philadelphia during the Cold War. During World War
No.
II?
I wasn't in the Philadelphia. I was in the defense of Philadelphia.
Oh, okay. In World War II, which theater of operations did you serve in?
The Mediterranean Theater of Operation, the MTO is a short word for it. That was the Mediterranean Theater of Operation in the Italian Peninsula.
Were you ever a prisoner of war?
No.
Did you ever sustain a combat injury or a service-related injury?
Yes.
Where were you injured?
In my left heel, I was hit by shrapnel, and I was frostbitten twice. My toes. And I was frostbitten one time in the States.
Did you get any special service awards?
Yeah, I was awarded the Bronze Star Medal for meritorious service, and I was awarded the Purple Heart Medal for wounds received in action. and also I had the combat infantry badge.
Can you tell me about your home life when you were a child back in the early 20s? Do you remember much from that?
Yeah.
Who were your parents?
My father was a doctor, Roscoe Elmore. He finished Howard Medical School in 1911. He started to practice medicine. And he had met Mary Ann Simmons, who was in Freedman's Hospital Nursing School.
Is that in New Jersey?
No, that's in Washington, D.C. Both of them. And they met and married. She finished nursing school in 1913, and they married. And next year, 1914, September, my older brother was born. And they had two daughters. One was born in 1916, that was Eunice, and Alice was born in 1919, and I was born in 22. And we had a very good childhood until the Depression.
Were you the youngest child?
I was the youngest of four.
Was your dad employed all during that 1920s?
He was a doctor. My father was a doctor.
When the Great Depression hit, did he lose customers enough to go out of business?
No, he didn't go out of business, but he didn't make any money because nobody had any to pay him. They used the barter system. They give him a duck, a couple of chickens, or a pig. He came home one time with 2 short pigs. We raised them up and butchered them. I was never cold or hungry during the Depression. Even my dad didn't have any. See, most of his patients were black people who worked for the white people. And when the money got funny, the white people laid the black domestics off. And they were most of my father's patients. So they had no money, but they had farms. I won't say farms. Some of them had farms, but most of them had truck gardens. And they raised pigs, and they raised ducks, and they raised chickens, and things of that nature. And that's what they used to pay him in. We had no electricity because my father couldn't pay the bill.
So did you have electricity in the house?
We had electricity. The house originally was the old homestead, and it was piped for gas light.
And where was this? Was this in New Jersey?
Magnolia,
Okay.
at the old homestead. My family's been in Magnolia since 1798. And they had it rewired for electricity. But you see, if you had no money, you couldn't pay the bill. We had a quarter meter for the gas. In other words, you put a quarter in and get 25 cents worth of gas. And in the kitchen, we had half the stove was gas and the other half was coal. During the winter, or prior to the winter, I should say, my father would have a man come up and prune his trees. We had an acre of ground. We had all kind of vegetable stuff and fruit trees and so forth, and had a man come up and prune the trees. And my job was to cut it up in stove lengths, so that we could burn it during the cold weather. Hot weather, we used a gas meter, for 25-cent gas meter. Okay, I learned to work as a kid because I was a baby. My older brother, he was going to college. My father was. We all made a sacrifice so my older brother could finish college. Okay. He went to Glassboro Normal School. That was a 3-year school where you got a teaching certificate. So he graduated from high school in 1931, and he graduated from the normal school in 1934. And he taught school. During the Depression, they paid him in script. Have you ever heard of script?
Yes. It only could be used in that one town, right?
Yeah. So rather than get back in taxes, my dad turned the house over to my brother, put in his name so he could pay the taxes in the script that they paid him. So we made it. And like I say, I learned to work. We had chicken houses, pigeon houses.
And you worked for your dad, basically.
Yeah, worked for my dad. But see, we did everything to make a living. I worked for a grocery store serving circulars for 35 cents.
Is that your first memory of an outside of the house type of work?
Yeah, I think you're right, because I was in about 8th grade, and a boy named Harry Jefferson lived across the street from me. He and I was friendly with this grocery store, and we served circulars. And, that was about the first outside job I had. But see, I had plenty of work to do around the house. I had to empty the ashes out the coal burning stove and dump them out there in the driveway and take a hose and wash them down so I get all the black ones out and put them back in the bucket and bring them back in the house because they wasn't burnt. Things of that nature. Clean out the pigeon houses, the chicken houses.
Did your father own a car?
Yeah, we always had a car. And the most memorable time of my dad in his car, let's see, I think he had a 1917 Ford during World War I. That's when he had money. But he always had a Dodge. And it was a different shift than the regular floor shift car. And he and my mother were talking, and I overheard him said, "Doggone it, Mame." He called my mother Mame. Her name was Mary. He says, "I'm going to Trenton to get my money." He said, "Them people up there owe me $2,700. I'm going up there and get my money." So I thought he was going to drive up. So I said, "Dad, can I go with you?" So he said, "Let me see if I got enough money for 2 one-way tickets to Trenton on the train." I had never been on a steam train, so I was thrilled. I mean, I was innocent of the hardship. We were just poor like everybody else. You know, nobody had any money, no lights in now. So he said he took me up and got the check, and somehow he got it cashed up there, one of those banks up in Trenton. And the lights came back on, and it was like Christmas in, I don't know when it wasn't that cold. Wasn't that cold, but anyhow, it was like Christmas time.
In the middle of the
They brought me a dual wheel wagon. You ever seen one of those with dual wheels in the back and sides on it? I kept that wagon just like it was a jewel because my son played with it.
As the 1930s got into the worst of the Depression, your father really never went hungry for the family?
No, we never went hungry. I say we had chickens and pigeons, and you took a pigeon and cut the throat, let him drain, and then you picked the feathers, you picked him dry, and you didn't break your skin. If you broke your skin, you couldn't take it to market. So we used to take them to market and things of that nature.
Can you remember your first memories of school?
Yeah, I remember the first day I went to school. My older brother, he was 8 years older than me. So he was finishing 8th grade, and I was going into 1st grade, 1927, going to 1st grade.
What were you good at in school?
Swimming. I was a fish. But segregation, you couldn't go in the YMCA pool, Young Men's Christian Association. Couldn't go in the vocational school pool where my father paid school taxes.
Your skin looks very white. Are you?
Well, we had a lot of white foreparents. My father had both his parents, his mother and his father, were half white. Back then, they didn't care. If they loved you, they loved you. That was all. It's just like today. There's a woman over there that's my assistant. I love her just like she's my daughter.
But you...
she loves me like I'm a daddy.
In the 1930s, when you're describing this, these incidents, is segregation affected your family too?
Oh yeah. Well, see, we had relatives and cousins from black as coal to white as snow. That's the way it just turned out. His cousin Lil, cousin Bill, cousin this one, that. We were just light skinned. And my mother was 1/4 white.
And this stuff happened in New Jersey too.
Oh yeah, it's happened all over the country. You mean, you know, they used to go to church. We had a mixed church, and then my grandfather and great grandfather belonged to a church that was mixed. It was the oldest church in the town of Lawnside. See, Lawnside was an all-black borough. Was 99% black because they had 1 or 2 white families live there. And that's where my father went to church. He didn't go to church too often because he was always out trying to find the people that owed him money. And he said in 1912, 13, when he first started practicing medicine, it was 50 cents if you came to the office and 75 cents if he had to come to your house. And people didn't have money for that. You know, but they had chickens and they had ducks and they had pigs and they would pay them, or rabbits, shotgun. I had an old shotgun home that somebody gave my dad for delivering the baby. Said, Doc, that's all I got. Take the shotgun. So my father would bring it home, and he would, if a woman had a miscarriage, sometime he'd bring the fetus home, put it in a jar of formaldehyde. And some black families that came, I won't say directly from Africa, but they had a tendency to have 6 fingers, 6 toes. And he would amputate the sick thing and bring them home. See, back then doctors did everything. He looked like he was white, but they knew he was colored and they wouldn't let him practice medicine in the hospital, which is big, is a big hospital now, bigger. That do, you know, it's mixed up, but you know, like the best president we ever had in this country, in my opinion, was Truman, Harry Truman. He's been integrated the armed forces, which integrated this country.
During the 1930s, before Harry Truman and before the war, did you ever see any violence against black people or against white people that would lead to
only
racism?
time I just read about it. I never saw any beatings or anything like that.
Were you ever frightened when you walked down the street at any time of the day or night in your neighborhood?
Nobody bothered you around my neighborhood. I used to play with white kids. They called me nigger, and I called them poor white trash. 15 minutes later, we're back out there playing baseball or whatever. But you know, we were just kids. Kids say mean things. But
you said you excelled in swimming. Did you do it also in other sports, or was it just pretty much swimming?
I was little. They used to call me Stumpy because I didn't grow up until I went in the military. And so I was short. I mean, I played baseball and all that stuff, but I was too small for football. I wasn't big as I am now. I was about half as big. I weighed about 130 pounds, soaking wet.
Did your father own the property that he lived in?
Yeah. That's what I say. He turned the deed over to my brother because so my brother could pay the taxes.
Was he old enough to go into your father, old enough to go into the First War?
Yeah, he was old enough, but he was a 4F. He wanted to go because all his cousins went, all his first cousins who were like, you know, first cousins like brothers. But my father had flat feet. He had a hernia, and he had 2 children. My 2 older siblings were born, and they wouldn't take him, and he was very disappointed. And we had a lot of pictures up here. They used to take up when he used to go up to Camp Dix, which is Fort Dix now, of his cousins up there during World War One.
As the 1930s kept going, Adolf Hitler was taking over Europe piece by piece. Did you have any recollection of this world event of Nazism taking over the world?
No, we wasn't too much alert on that till 1936 when Life magazine came out, and we had the first copy of Life magazine, and in there was a lot of stories with Margaret Burke White and some more of those world-famed photographers had pictures of stuff going over in Europe. And see, that's 1936. That's the year I graduated from 8th grade. And then in high school, there wasn't too much talk about Hitler.
How about the Japs?
Huh?
How about the Japanese?
No Japanese either. You know, they were just a country that didn't, you know, not that I know of, you know, because I was more interested in girls. You know, when you get to be 13, 14, 15, 16 years old, you start looking at them, you didn't know what you was looking at.
In high school, did you excel in any one particular thing?
Couldn't go anywhere.
What do you mean?
I was the wrong complexion. You know, things were segregated. I couldn't go in the swimming pools. I went out for the swimming team, and the coach says, I heard you could swim, but I got no place for you to train.
How about academics like math or science?
I wasn't that bright. My siblings were brighter. My brother and my younger sister, they were the smart people in my family, smart children. I managed to graduate in 4 years, but I was no mathematical genius.
Was there any one particular teacher that you liked better than the other?
Yeah, a man named Dr. Irwin. He was a PhD in education. He was one of the fairest teachers I ever had. And I had him in my junior and senior year.
Was he a black man or a white man?
No, he's a white man. In fact, I didn't excel in anything other than swimming until I joined the Army, joined the National Guard and was activated. I was a 20-year-old second lieutenant.
Do you recall the day you graduated high school?
Yeah, June of 1940.
What can you tell me about that day?
Well, I know one of the prettiest girls in the class, white girl, came over and kissed me on the cheek and congratulated me upon graduation. I mean, I had a lot of friends in high school. I wasn't no, you know, I just wasn't a genius. I didn't get to be a genius till I got out in the Army. Till now.
You mentioned you joined the National Guard. Was this right after high school?
Yeah.
Why?
My older brother, he was had been in it since 1935. You see, in 1931, the black veterans of the World War I wanted some kind of organization they could get in to maintain their relationship with one another, more or less. And they petitioned some of the local politicians to create National Guard. Being segregated, they didn't create the National Guard outfit. They created state militia. See? So the politicians had the governor create, or the governing body create A company from Newark, New Jersey, and B company from Atlantic City, New Jersey. That's from way up high, way down low, to the first separate battalion, New Jersey State Militia. Okay. In 1934, I think it was, when the Morro Castle was burning out to sea off of Seagirt, which was the National Guard camp that the state militia utilized too. The sentry gave the alarm about the ship being on fire. You know, call the corporal or the guard by any case not covered by instruction. So some of the men from Atlantic City were used to manning boats and swimming. Some of them were ex-lifeguards and so forth. They swam out and saved a lot of people, and they did such a wonderful job. Two of the men were undertakers. They set up a morgue, and they did such a good job. The state appropriated money for 2 more companies.
Was your brother in these companies of militia?
So they got word, and my brother was in C Company, but they drilled in civilian clothes and with broomsticks, bring your own broomstick, because they didn't have any rifles. And they went through the rudiments of Butts manual and so forth, and close order drill, and then they appropriated enough money to create 2 more companies. So they got C Company in Camden and D Company in Trenton, and they were all rifle companies, because back then they had rifle companies, they had machine gun companies, and things of that nature. It was old-fashioned. I got one in my pocket, I think. No, I don't. Give me one. And I don't know what the hell's making my nose run. Anyhow, they had uniforms with the old-fashioned wrap leggings.
Right.
And some of them guys weren't used to wrapping their legs with the wrap leg and wrap them too tight, and they'd get cramps, and they'd fall out of formation because they'd cut off the circulation. And then they got learned. And then my brother bought himself some leggings, canvas leggings on one side and leather on the other, and he used to put them on after he'd take his right leggings off and put them on, that, which was unauthorized, but he did a lot of things that in uniform wise, you know. So this was 1935 that they started. And my dad was very interested. Like I say, he was frustrated because he couldn't go in World War I. And he used to follow them, take them to camp and go to 2-week training in the summertime, you know. And I was the mascot.
You were the mascot
Of the company. And they liked me because they taught me how to field strip a 03 rifle. They taught me how to field strip 45 automatic.
as a kid.
And I was about 13. They liked me because I would clean their weapon for them. My brother had me polish his brass. Back then they used to polish the brass, you know? And he had a template that you could put over your brass thing so it didn't get on your belt or didn't get on the thing, and I would polish it. I learned how to do all that kind of stuff. So I used to go to camp just about every year. All the officers knew me, and I had the old Brownie box camera. I'd take a lot of pictures. And then in high school, I was 17, and my brother says, "Come on, bub, join up." I said, "No, I'm going to wait till I finish high school because they got a war in Europe, and I don't know what's going to happen. I want to be at least a high school graduate." So I finished high school in June, and I think it was the 26th of October, of July, that I joined the state militia.
So about a month after school then.
We didn't even have National Guard then. So they swore me in the state militia. I never had a full issue of straight clothes. And in September the 10th, they made us National Guard. We federalized.
So for about 2 months you were militia,
Yeah.
and then came National Guard.
Then we had to go over to the hospital, which was right across from the armory, and get X-rays. So they called me in the office. Said, "Look like you got a spot on your lung." So I said, "Look," so I went home. I was disappointed. So you can't enlist. You got a spot on your lung. So I told my dad, and he said, I got a doctor who was a friend of mine who's a specialist in that type of thing. So he looked at it and said, that could be a splatter of development fluid or something like that on there. He told me, he said, I'm gonna pass you. You smoke? I said, yeah, I smoke a little bit. He said, well, stop smoking and get plenty of rest. You'll be all right. That was 1940. Never saw it again. And I took an X-ray every year.
The war had started by that time in Europe.
The war in Europe had started, yeah.
And you knew it was going on.
Yeah.
Had you even thought that the Nazis had any anger toward Jewish people? Had you heard about that issue?
Yeah, I heard, but you didn't pay any attention to it. I mean, at least I didn't, you know. I was busy doing whatever you do when you... I had a job.
Who'd you work for?
Let's see, who was 1940? Right out of high school. Oh, I worked for Horn of Heart restaurant down in the basement. Either washing dishes or cleaning silverware or something. That's about, best job I had. I had no experience with doing anything, that type of work. And you could get a job easy enough. And the guy says, come on, join the post office. So I took the test and passed it, but they was only paying 86 cents an hour. I was already making $1.10 an hour, so I couldn't see the difference. And I knew we were going to get activated because it was a very heavy rumor where they were going to activate us.
In the National Guard, was it pretty much just a weekend type thing at that time?
It was not a weekend, it was a weekday. Every Tuesday night, for 2 hours, you'd go drill.
All right.
And that's all you did was drill, close order drill. Wasn't that like later on, map study and all that kind of stuff, intelligence work.
Had they issued your National Guard any type of weapons of any sort at that time?
Oh yeah, we had we were the first unit in New Jersey to get the M1 rifle.
The Garand.
The Grand. Rest of them had the Springfield, old Springfield bolt action. And they used to drill in the Sumner School. Well, the principal of Sumner School had been a reserve officer, and he permitted them to drill there, plus the fact he became the first company commander, first federal company commander. We had an old company commander from World War I who was too old. He and Lieutenant Sharp and Lieutenant Eggleston. Eggleston was the reserve officer, and he became our first company commander. So I was always volunteering because I wasn't, I had time off. And I volunteered to go in and help uncrate the M1s and clean them. They came all coated in cosmoline, real heavy grease. And so I learned how to field strip them, take them apart, so I could teach other people how to do it after we got them straightened out.
Did you get promoted while you were in the Guard?
Yeah, I got promoted. I went in. My older brother said to me, "Bub, if I make arrangements, will you go to Camden Police Department and study fingerprinting so we can fingerprint the men? Because they used to pay a man $10 every night when he fingerprinted the people." So I went to Camden Police Department when I was 18. And I wore a suit and tie, and I used to ride around with this identification sergeant on murder cases and burglaries and stuff, and he taught me to fingerprint and how to, the loops in the whirls and how to roll and all that kind of stuff. So the police commissioner was a woman. So she came in there one day and she says, "Son, how old are you?" I stood up and puffed out my chest, and I said, "I'm 18. "Oh," she says, "Son, you got to be 21 to stay in here." Well, by that time, I learned what I needed. So I fingerprinted everybody enlisted in the National Guard, and it promoted me to private first class. Well, when you're private, you're only getting $30 a month. When they pay private first class, I got $36 a month. Plus, you got the little authority, you know. Back in the Marine Corps, they call them lance corporals, and in the English Army, British Army, they call them lance corporals, PFC. So I got promoted in February of 41. So then in March of 41, we got called up.
What does that mean?
We activated. Had to go to Fort Dix.
What'd your dad think about that?
Oh, he thought it was great. We
bet you-
wasn't in war. He had both his sons. He was proud of us.
How about your mom?
She was too. In fact, there was a picture in the paper of my father helped me put on, and my sister helped me put on my pack. You know, and was about 4 pictures of it. I had them at home. So we went to Fort Dix the 10th of March, and on the we went on maneuvers. No, we went the 10th of March. We went on active duty, and I was an acting corporal. And in August, I was promoted to corporal. And we went on maneuvers with the Yankee Division up in New England, and I was acting sergeant. And we came back. Well, we was up there in maneuvers, and my buddy, the same guy that I always talk about, he was street smart, but he wasn't a street kid. And the chow trucks are getting lost. Excuse me. Because the officers all hadn't been to Fort Benning to the officers' basic course to learn anything. They were National Guard officers, and they wasn't too well trained, even though they was captains, lieutenants, first lieutenant. And the chow trucks would get lost because they couldn't read the maps. No, they wasn't like the maps today now. I'm talking about 60 years ago.
Right.
So my buddy, he would call me, "Hey, Spence, come here." What? I said, "Go around there." The good humor man used to follow so much they made him camouflage his truck. I said, "Go around there and talk to that good humor man." I go around there and talk to him, blah, blah, blah. And my buddy was sneaking around the other way to open up the thing and steal ice cream out there. We out up in the orchard country where they had these wine sap apples and stuff like that. And we go there and we were eating apples and ice cream because we got hungry. So all that cleared up. They had those little small Piper Cub planes fly around with bags of flour throw them at us like bombs, you know, and if you got any flour on you, was declared a casualty. And it was quite an episode. We had a good time. That was in September. I got promoted to buck sergeant.
In September of 40,
September
right?
40. And the pay was $60 a month. And then there was no machine guns or nothing like that in the company, BARs, and it was all strictly M1 rifles. Okay. So then,
Well, as sergeant,
we went up and was training in Fort Dix, and we was National Guard regiment. Okay, the 1st Battalion was from New Jersey. The 2nd Battalion was from Ohio. And the 3rd Battalion was from Massachusetts National Guard units. Headquarters in service was Washington, D.C. and Maryland National Guard. And it was called the 372nd Infantry Regiment. The headquarters was right here in D.C. Okay, my platoon sergeant was a very likable guy. So I used to go with him when he'd go down to 3rd Battalion because they had all World War I stuff. They even have wrap leggings and the old-fashioned uniform when they came into Fort Dix before they got the new issue. But they had the guns that we wanted to learn that we didn't have. So I used to go down there, and a water-cooled machine gun, 30 caliber machine gun, operated just like a light machine gun, except it had the water jacket on it. So I learned how to field strip them, field strip the Browning automatic rifle. So when we got them, I could instruct. So I mean, I was pretty good soldier. So I said I was in 1941. I was 19. So they bombed Pearl Harbor the 7th of December.
yeah, but so you were in the in August. I mean, excuse me, April 40. You were National Guard.
Right.
When April 41 comes along, wouldn't you be dismissed from National Guard?
No.
You stayed in.
We were activated.
Activated.
Yeah, by the President of the United States.
For how long, did he say?
For a year.
For 1 year.
Okay. In December of 41, we had 9 months completed when they bombed Pearl Harbor.
You remember that
So it's a
day?
national emergency. So you go for the duration. Yes, I remember it.
Where were
because
you?
I was on a weekend pass. I was a buck sergeant on a weekend pass up in Germantown to see a girl.
You remember the moment that you heard the message?
Yeah, we were sitting there with her mother and father. And thing came over the radio. You know, you didn't have no TV then. All military personnel report back to the headquarters. What is that? Listen to that. Said it again. So then the girl's parents, oh, we'll take you down to the bus depot. So they got the car out the garage and took me down to 13th and Filbert and filled up, and I caught the bus back to Dix. Well, my buddy, who I was telling you about, he didn't have a pass that weekend, so when I get back, all my stuff's packed up. Only thing I get to pack is my uniform and get on, put on my combat uniform. So that's what I did. And that's what it was. So, see, just like these guys getting called up now, they're getting called up with the consent of the governor. Because the regulation says National Guard is not supposed to be called up unless the governor concurs.
And you never had heard where Pearl Harbor was before this?
Never
moment?
heard of it before in all my life. Pearl. Where's Pearl? I don't know about no Pearl. Pearl Harbor.
You had heard about the war in Europe because you were preparing. Had you ever even
Well,
thought
we
the
read
Japanese?
about it, but you know, it was a general mobilization. All the National Guard units were getting called up because they had antiquated stuff, equipment. And in 1940, I say we studied in 1942. They changed the table of organization and made 12-man squad, 13-man squads, and they made platoon sergeants want to be staff. Well, I was a buck sergeant, so they gave a test, and our test, and I made the 4th highest of all the sergeants.
In that company?
In that company. So I thought I'll get to be a platoon sergeant. Oh, you're too young. You're too young. I was 20 years old. You're too young to be a platoon sergeant. I said, I run platoon sergeant. Jones not here now. What's the difference? So I told them what they could do, what they could kiss and everything. I'll go to OCS.
Was a colored man you could go to OCS?
Huh?
They let colored men go?
Oh yeah, they would. I'm gonna tell you. So you had to be 21 at first, and then they changed. All you had to be was a non-commissioned officer. So I went down, and like I told you, I could shoot. I fired expert on the range, and they called my target. This is in Fort Benning, Georgia, at OCS. Guys from all over the world, all over the country. They called my target, said, that's the way you want to shoot that gun. Browning automatic rifle, that's the ones that had the 20-man clip in the bottom. And brr, 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 brr. I knew how to shoot that. 3-round burst. Bip, 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 bip. I shot expert with that, and they had me shoot a demonstration problem. No CS. So then, my counterpart was a white fellow, tech sergeant. His name was Moore also. He couldn't hit the broadside of a barn with a handful of sand. So I'm trying to teach him what that I knew, you know. Jiggle the gun, turn your head down, jiggle the gun like that, shut the breech. Okay, now, and he jumped, whether it was loaded or whether it wasn't loaded. So he couldn't, so they called us in the office. So what's the matter? I'm shooting expert and this guy can't even hit the damn target. So I told him, the guy broke down and cried, said, I'd never handled a gun before. I was a medic. So, when they have what they call graduation day at Fort Benning, Georgia, to finish OCS and get your commission. So, I was standing, standing at attention. The following men report to the orderly room. More. Oh shit! What did I do? Kenneth. That wasn't me, that was the other guy who couldn't hit the barn door. Took them guys. When you come back, they're gone. You'll never see them again. And I finished OCS and went to the 92nd Division.
So
I won the 3rd best soldier, the 3rd best squad, and the 3rd best platoon in the 92nd Division, and those cracker officers, white officers, had me up for inefficiency.
inefficiency.
But I had said I was inefficient when I won the 3rd best award of all the things in the division, not the regiment in the division. But what could I do? Who could I go to?
So how did they pick you to be to go into OCS in the first place?
I applied for it because they wouldn't promote me to staff sergeant because they said I was too young. So I showed them I got a commission.
So you were commissioned 2nd lieutenant.
Right.
Where did they send you when you got your commission?
Camp Breckenridge, Kentucky.
Have you ever been to Kentucky before?
Nope.
What was your job at Breckenridge?
Rifle platoon leader, 1st Platoon, Company G.
Were you good at it?
Was I good at it? I told you I won the third best soldier, third best squad, third best platoon in the division. Them guys loved me, and I had a very good platoon sergeant. His name was Charles Mott from Modidi, Oklahoma. Looked like he was a white boy.
This was a segregated unit.
Huh?
This was a segregated unit, though.
Yeah, but it was all black, except for the senior officers. All the company commanders, all the executive officers were white, and all the platoon leaders were black.
So how many people were in your platoon?
40, about 30, between 36 and 40.
Did you have maneuvers that you did at Camp Breckenridge?
Well, you take your platoon out, you had a schedule, and you had the references, and you take them out and train them and do what the references says that you had to do. You know, run the fall flat, map training, anything to do with the soldiering, how you attack, you simulate that you fired your gun to alert the rest of the troops. See, you had the scouts out in your platoon. You'd say scouts out, and you'd have 2 men run way out, maybe 400 or 500 yards ahead of the group, and he would give signals. Like, you know, you tell him what, you know, after about 15 minutes, give a signal that there's an enemy out there, and he would give various signals, things of that nature. And you teach your men how to observe and see this thing. And for recreation, we used to chase rabbits. We used to run rabbits down Camp Breckenridge, Kentucky. See, they'd have foxholes that you'd have out there in the training field that nobody ever used. They used occasionally. So we'd run rabbits down and put them in the hole. You know, a rabbit can only run a certain distance and quit at high speed. If he's loping, he can run a long ways. But see, if you run him, he gets tired because their heart's not that big.
Was this platoon that you were working with, was it training to be a rifle platoon frontline unit?
It was already a rifle platoon. I was teaching them how to kill or be killed. Bayonet training, rifle range training.
And you had learned that at OCS?
I had learned, well, they honed my skills finer. I knew how to do it when I went to OCS. I didn't learn to shoot there. I taught them how to shoot.
How long did you stay at Camp Breckenridge?
See, from December of 42, December 42 to May of 43.
Then where did they send you?
Uh-huh.
Where did they send you?
Fort Watchuca, Arizona. Can you spell Watchuca?
I'm gonna try.
Huachuca. Watchuca.
Why way out there? Why'd they send you way out there?
Segregated Army. That was the only post. The segregated Army. They had the only post that they wanted that many black troops, armed troops. In the back of their mind, they had Huntsville. No, the place down in Texas where they had the riots and killed. Brownsville. They had that in their mind. On the way to Fort Watchuca, we would stop off after riding all day or something and take the troops off the train for a little physical exercise and put them back on. Some places you stop between Camp Breckenridge and Fort Watchuca, Arizona. The mayor and the police and everybody, get them niggas back on that train. We don't want them over here. That's the way it was in this country. And we're going to fight for this country.
At that time, I know you're an old man, you're an older guy now and know it all.
20 years old.
How did that make you feel at that time?
I turned 21. was nothing unusual because you got segregated every place you went. So you learn where to go, where not to go. Right from down the street from my hometown, the closest theater, you had to sit up in the balcony.
Did anybody in the in your platoon act out because of this racial tension?
Yeah. Most of them were Southern boys in my unit. They were used to it.
Used to it. As the when you got down to Watchuca in May of 1943, what did they assign your task at that fort?
What did they do?
What was your assignment there?
Platoon leader. Training.
Is this the same platoon that you had before?
Yeah.
Is there any one person in that platoon that you remember distinctly to this day as being a great soldier?
Oh yeah, my platoon sergeant and my platoon guy Ted Rhodes, and had a private Sylvester oh, what is that boy's name? He was killed. Got to be a corporal. See, I got transferred out of G Company because I questioned my company commander about some order.
Is this at Watchuca that you happened?
Yeah, this is all from Watchuca now on. The battalion commander, Lieutenant Colonel Everman, said all officers were pulled duty officer. Well, I had met the girl I married, and I wanted to go see her as often as possible. So there were 6 officers to a company, 2 white and 4 black. So that means every 6th day I was pulled duty officer, and every 6th weekend I would do this, that, and the other thing. So if one dropped out, that meant every 5th day. And I still wanted to get out and see this young lady whom I married, and we were married 62 years before she married. She died. And it was, like I said, Captain, I said, in this officers meeting, company officers, 6 of them, he was presiding. So he said, this, that, and the other thing. So I said, any question? I said, yeah. I said, when are you going to pull duty officer? The colonel said, everybody pulled duty officer. Lieutenant, I do what I say, blah, 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 you know. I'm only 2nd lieutenant. But who am I going to go to? Everybody from him on up is white. They're going to take the word of a 2nd lieutenant over a white captain? Even Inspector General wouldn't do that, particularly in the segregated army. We had a segregated commander.
And you felt this at that time?
Yeah, and he was terrible. I mean,
The colonel was, Lieutenant Colonel.
Lieutenant Colonel was white. The executive officer is white, the commanding officer is white, the battalion commander is white, the regimental commander is white, the division commander is white, all the staff officers are white. What are you going to do? I mean, it was a terrible situation.
So what did they do to you for questioning your officers?
I had one 3rd best soldier, 3rd best squad, and 3rd best platoon. And they put my efficiency index as unsatisfactory from the day I come out of OCS. I didn't know it because you had no access to it. Excuse me.
We're going to pause here because my
Okay.
tape is running out.
Okay. Remember that guy had all those uniforms and stuff?
Oh, Steve Rosenstock?
Yeah.
No, I don't see him very much anymore.
I think he was almost getting ready to get locked up or something.
Yes, he was. He'd been pulling some scams on people.
You were in Fort Watchuca, and you mentioned that your officers had pretty much ruined your chances of promotion. how did you get overseas, or how long did you spend at Watchuca?
Well, we spent Watchuca. We were training in Fort Watchuca, and we left and went to Louisiana on Manuvers. Ain't there a plug over there?
Right there.
I thought I saw one over there.
The Louisiana Manuvers,
Yeah.
were you still with the regiment, the 32nd,
Yeah, but
72nd?
I was detailed as a umpire.
Move it over some more, Ray.
Rich. And no, we umpired and so forth down there, but we was down there in a segregated place.
The maneuvers, were there only black troops involved in these maneuvers?
I'm not sure. I couldn't spot. Only ones I saw were black, so I don't know whether anybody else was down there or not. But during the breaks at the place, you go to get on the bus to go to one of the towns, and the bus driver make you sit in the back. I mean, regardless of your rank, you know. And the fact that I had a bus driver pull his pistol up and make us get in the back. We were sitting on the double wheel seat. You know, I was all crunched up, and a fellow named Glover, Dad Glover, we used to call him, he was sitting alongside me, and this bus driver looked in the mirror, his rear view mirror, and saw these white troops stop. They wouldn't go past us. And so it must have been some other troops down there.
Were you assigned any type of a vehicle to use as an umpire?
No, he was walking. I wasn't that high up to have a vehicle. You were walking around, you know, with the troops, to see how they acted and see who did this, that, the other thing, and what if they got hit with one of the flour bombs or not, or near the, you know, things of that nature.
Did you, did your company have any heavy tanks or jeeps of any sort?
We were a rifle company.
Only rifles?
Rifles and light machine guns, 60mm mortars. See, they had changed the table of organization
Right.
when we got those. So they sent from just 03 rifles, the M1 rifles, to light machine guns and Browning automatic rifles, and 60mm mortars. That was the rifle company at that time.
After the Louisiana maneuvers, where did they send you?
Went back to Fort Watchuca, preparing for overseas duty. And that was June of '44.
Now that was D-Day in Europe.
Yeah, but they still wouldn't let us fight. We were black troops. I keep telling you, we were segregated. They didn't know what the hell to do with us. See, we was in Breckenridge. My regiment. It takes 3 regiments to make a division. We were separated. 365th Infantry Regiment, same as my regiment, only was 365th, was in Camp Atterbury, Indiana. The 370th it's my regiment, it was in Camp Breckenridge, Kentucky. The 371st Regiment was at Camp Robinson, Arkansas. We had never been together as a division because they didn't want that many black troops in one space in the more or less metropolis of the United States.
So you were...
They put us out at Fort Watchuca as soon as it was vacant, but because they took the 93rd Division, which was at Fort Watchuca, and sent them to Camp Stoneman, Arizona, California, getting ready to go to the Pacific. When they were left the post, they sent the 92nd. So We all came in from 3 different directions, and we were all one division.
Were you becoming frustrated that you weren't being sent to combat?
No, what would I care? Nobody's bothering me. I mean, I'm not trying to be smart or impudent or anything, but, you know, I'm a 20-year-old, 21-year-old. I was more or less interested in drilling and so forth, getting prepared to go to combat.
D-Day happens on June 6, 1944. Do you remember hearing about the news?
Yeah. Let's see, where was I? I don't know, where June the 6th. I couldn't tell you where I was. I know I was trying to get a leave so that I had to leave before I went overseas. And I did get it. I got 15 days to come from Fort Watchuca, Arizona to Evansville, Indiana to New Jersey to my parents. I stopped in let's see. Now my wife had come out there to live because she was still in high school and she was in the school was out. And she came out to join me. She wasn't pregnant or nothing like that. We just liked one another right away, and boom, we got married. Well, we married 62 years before she died. But we were coming home for furlough, and she wanted to have a baby while I was overseas. And I said, well, you know, you were still in high school. She said, I don't care. I can go to high school. I'm married. I'm pregnant. That's all. That's what I want to be. So we decided to do that. So we did. And I went overseas in July of '44. And by the time we got to the front to go into action, it was around the 31st of August, around in August, and I went across the Oran River and
Can you tell me about
the Germans.
Can you tell me about your trip over the ocean? Had you ever been on such a big ship?
No, and I was assistant provost marshal on the ship. I worked my way over and worked my way back when I was in there. And in other words, I had to run to the ship and responsible for security blackout, nighttime, and dumping the garbage off the fantail. That's the end of the ship at nighttime, so that in case the sub couldn't trail us.
What ship was it? I'm sorry.
I was talking to the captain one night up on the bridge. I could go from the bridge to the brig on the ship because I was a cop. And my commanding officer, and I want to know, I said to my commanding officer, Colonel Sherman, are we going to work or fight? Because a lot of black units were broken up when they got over the seas and made it. He said, we're going to fight. I said, that's okay, because I want to get my mind together. So the name of the ship was the Mariposa, SS Mariposa, Mariposa. And it was a cruise ship, deluxe cruise ship. And comical things happened on the ship because we had nice staterooms that were probably lavish back in them days. And they had a French bidou. You know what that is? Okay. They had bunks 3 deep on each wall, with 9 officers stayed to a cabin. And they had this French bidou, so when they get in the bathroom, they get jammed up, these guys went to this bidou and didn't know what it was, so they was washing their teeth. And I said, hey, you know what that is? That's the thing the woman squats over to take a douche. Oh, and some of them got all excited. But it was comical. So then, we had some Air Force pilots, some 332nd Fighter Group pilots. A guy named, he retired as a colonel in the Air Corps. I'll think of his minute. Anyhow, they used to gamble all night, play poker. They come in our stateroom and play with some of our officers, Charlie Gandy and some more. I didn't gamble, but the mess department were giving orders to give us all the coffee and sandwiches that we wanted because we were up all night securing the ship. So the thing struck me, said, them guys will pay for these sandwiches because they're playing poker all night and they get hungry. Coffee, cups of coffee. So then, I would order a bunch of sandwiches and coffee and sell it to them because they had all this money down there and things of that nature. You go down in the hold of the ship and greet your troops. See how they were doing out. See your platoon sergeant. My old platoon sergeant was Sergeant Collier, and I was in B Company. I went overseas with B Company at 370, and the only living survivor of the Medal of Honor, Vernon Baker, was in C Company, so Vernon and I was a good friend. And he had various details and stuff like that. And
You went over.
well, I said to the captain when I was up on the bridge, I see the first 3 days, a blimp came over our ship. We was by ourselves. A blimp came over and look out for subs. The next 3 days, we were on our own. And the last 3 days, as I remember, this British plane came over the ship and circled the ship, and he flashed different light signals to whoever was receiving them on the ship. And then we went into Oran, North Africa, and got into, we were warned not to mess with those women. And some of the sailors were found with their genitals cut off and stuck in their mouth.
Oh.
So they warned us. So it didn't take much to warn me because I ain't going out that way. So they broke us up. We unloaded and they put us in smaller ships and got a convoy. So when they got on the new ship, I was tired because I've been up all night. So I'm laying on my bunk asleep, and I could feel the ship. I said, damn, this ship is moving. So I jumped up and ran up on the deck, and as far as I could see were ships. Ships, ships, ships. Never seen so many ships in all. We were in a convoy going into the combat zone. So we went into, on our ship, I don't remember what name it was. Anyhow, I got to talking to this Italian officer. He was a major in the Italian army, and he spoke English and was teaching me different phrases to say in Italian when I landed. And we landed in Naples, and the Germans had sunk a lot of ships trying to block up the harbor. And the engineers had built a walkway, a ramp all across the ships, from way out in the harbor all the way into to the land. And we landed in, like I say, Naples, and we had to march over to a crater camp. And it was a crater that left by an extinct volcano. It was called the crater camp. So like I say, I was so damn tired. I secured my men, made sure they got all set up, set their tents up, and I set my tent up. And I crawled in that sucker and I went to sleep. See, the officers had two shelter halves. Two halves make a whole. And each man has a half the shelter. So that he and his buddy would they put them together, and they had a flap so that it didn't leak. And they would pitch one tent, two men to a tent, enlisted men, but also had his own one. I crawled in that tent and went to sleep. Woke up the next morning. Hey, Lieutenant, you okay? I said, yeah, why? What's the matter? He said, they bombed us last night. I said, they did? I said, damn, I didn't know I'm back, because I was fast asleep. I slept through the thing. So then you got it friendly with the different people would come in. And I talked to one guy. He was had been a Italian army officer, and I forget. He gave me a picture. I got all that stuff. And then we was there, I guess, 2 or 3 days, and then he packed up and boarded trucks and went up through, drove up through Rome and to a little place called Civitavecchia.
Chittish.
Chittis, it's C-I-T-T, so forth. You gotta
Right.
get a map. Civitavecchia. And I lost my first man there.
Was he in your platoon?
He would have been my man if I wasn't in the platoon.
What was his name?
I don't know. I forget it, both of them's name. We were issued ammunition. You know how some guys were taking interest in see how this thing works and all that kind of stuff. Hit the trigger and shot a man through the head and killed him. So I had to testify. The guy was a hell of a good soldier. He just made a mistake. So I think his name was Penny. Last name. I can't. Don't quote me on that.
Right.
And you know, things of that nature. So I went in.
So there was a court martial and everything.
Yeah, there was inquiry and so forth, and nothing real formal. You know, guys said, "What kind of soldier?" Well, you hell of a good soldier. You know, and my platoon sergeant testified for him, all his squad leaders and everything.
So what happened to the soldier?
He got off as far as I know. So that was 1st Platoon of G Company, and no, that's 1st Platoon of B Company, 3rd Platoon of B Company. I'm sorry, 3rd Platoon.
Right.
I was in B Company. I'm thinking to see. Then I went on up and went into combat. And
What was it like to be in combat?
did you ever see the movie Band of Brothers? Got in hot spots and guys, the first night up on the line, this guy will be here tonight, came in Hancock. So Hancock, he was one of my sergeants, one of the squad leaders. Take your squad down to the river, get behind that wall. Don't do nothing else, just listen. And if you hear the Germans, how you going to tell? You hear a guttural sound, German sound, fire your rifle 3 times, bam, 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 like that. That's the signal. That's a signal. Sometimes it's in the woods, if you're lost, it's a distress signal. Don't get in that haystack. There were haystacks Italians had all around, because they were mostly, this is farm country. My platoon sergeant and I are in getting acclimated, oriented to where we are from the platoon we're getting ready to relieve. It was a white outfit. They were very nice, glad to see us because they're going to relieve them. So in the interim, help, help. I said to Carl, did you hear that? I said, no. I said, listen, help, help. We grabbed our pieces, went out in the blackout, and here the 8th man is dragging Sergeant Hancock, and he's spurting blood just like it. I grabbed his leg and stopped the blood and put a tourniquet on it, kept him from bleeding to death. And the 8th man had shrapnel wound this far from his anus. And he was bleeding like a stuck pig, and Collier got him. So we called and sent him back. What had happened, he and the aid man gonna lay up in this haystack. The Italians had hidden a car under the haystack. Well, see, all those haystacks had was like this. They had a pole sticking up through them, and Germans had all them surveyed in. They knew how far it was, what charge, what elevation to fire that 88. They fired, hit the haystack. They didn't know it was a car under there, but it was a car under there, and bam! Right up. All the back of them. This guy's limping right. Hancock coming here tonight. He lost the back of his leg. He lost the calf of his leg.
Was there another?
Very first night we went up on the front.
Was there another incident that you remember in combat that you're willing to talk about today?
Let me see. When I got hit.
Tell me about that day. You remember what day it was?
It was October the 7th, 1944. I'd never forget that date.
Tell me what happened that day.
Well, we went into the attack. The night before we sent a patrol over, it was raining. And they had to ford the canal, and the canal was chest deep because the troops were going across with the rifles like this. And they came back and get a report to prepare to go into attack the next day. Well, it stopped raining. The canal got low, it was only about thigh deep when we went across. So we waded across, and Lieutenant Penner's platoon was first, mine was second, and the other one was, I think, was in reserve. And the weapons platoon were dispersed throughout the two attacking companies. And so we were walking up this road in a little place called Saraveza. And I saw a green flare go up on the German side, and something says to me, move over to your right. So I moved over like that, and just as I moved back, a stream of machine gun bullets went right where I was standing. Tap, 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 hit the ground. I hit the ground, and see on all those little bridges and streams is a stone fence about so high, maybe 2 or 3 feet deep. So I got behind it and looked around to make sure my men were all right. Everybody okay? So they said, yeah. So Sergeant Barringer, one of my squad leaders, I said, Barringer, when I raise up and go across, I'm going over in that culvert. Well, the Germans had taken all the metal off of it, to utilize for their own thing. So it was open. So I ran across and jumped in the culvert. About 2 minutes later, boom, there's another guy. That was Barringer. So we're standing there. So I said to Barringer, I said, I'm going up the draw. Follow me. I got up, went up the draw, and I'm paying attention to the front. And I ran into Lieutenant Penner's man. I said, where's Lieutenant Penner? He said, he's going up front. So I turn around. There's Pat, my platoon guide. I said, where's Barringer? He said he raised up out of that hole, and the sniper shot right through his helmet, parted his skull, and went out the back. He didn't kill him, he just parted his skull. I said, So I met Lieutenant Penner's last man. I said, where's Lieutenant Penner? He says, up there cutting through barbed wire. So I said, I told Pat, I said, well, you bring the platoon on up. I'm going up to help Penner cut through the barbed wire. So we go up, we cut through the barbed wire, we crawl up on the other side, and we're crawling, and we look down to our left, and we see this German machine gun. So we're crawling. He had a carbine and I had a Thompson submachine gun, which no range to them, either one. So we're crawling, we're going to come within gunshot of the guys and shoot them. When he leaned on some kind of mine, it sounded like a shot. What had happened was a shoe mine that had 3 prongs up like this. Well, evidently down in here it got wet, and it wouldn't go off. It didn't somehow. Anyhow, that machine gunner heard us. We had him by surprise. He heard us, and he turned up, and I can see him just like yesterday. He stood up and turned that machine gun around and started firing at us. Well, Penner and I were lower than snakes. And we were, in defilade, and we got back to where the main body of our platoons were, where they was dispersed around there like that. And they start walking mortars in, bloom. They're getting closer, bloom.
The
closer.
Germans?
German mortars, bloom, blam. That's the one that hit me. And blew me about here to that wall, bam, I went back like that. And I had a GI watch, and I smashed it against the rocks. And is everybody all right? And this guy was standing there holding his chest. I thought, oh shit, this man's hurt. So I got up and walked over to him, and I gently removed his hands, and a piece of rocket hit him in the chest and knocked the wind out of him. The guy said, hey, Lieutenant, you're bleeding. I said, who's bleeding? He said, you are. And I looked down the back of my boots going. Because I was doing everything an infantryman shouldn't be doing. If I had been doing what infantrymen doing, I'd have been crippled today. I was crawling backwards with my foot sticking up in the air like this, just like this. And the shrapnel went through the back of my heel. See, if I'd have had my foot turned down like that, it would have gone right through my foot. So Pat, my platoon guy, came up, took out his knife and cut the back of my boot off, the rest of the boot off, and put first aid, Manila, sulfanilamide powder and all that other junk that they put on, and tied my boot back on. And I'm sliding down the mountain going to the aid station. Captain Hamilton said, hey, where the hell are you going? I said, I'm wounded. I'm going to the aid station. I'll be back soon as I get some boots. So I get down to the canal. And the medic's going like this, get down, and pointing up there. I said, I know, we got them engaged. See, the men are still shooting at this sucker. So Sergeant Scott was a commo sergeant. He ran across the canal up there, and I looked at it, and he and two of his men. I said, shit, they didn't shoot at him. I'm going across. I'm standing there, the water's turning red where I'm walking there. So I hobbled across the canal and get over there, and there's our company executive officer, Lieutenant Kidd, behind a great big tree, and all in that tree around there, as you can see the bullet marks. But I said, boy, you're lucky to get across there. They got me pinned down. I said, no, we got him up there. We're engaging him up there. That's how I got hit for mortars. So I said, I'll go up here to the aid station. So I'll go in there, and the sergeant looks at it, takes the boot off, cuts everything off, look at it. I'm laying on my belly, and they're looking at the back of me. So he gives me a shot of tetanus and a white tag. I think Captain Gill was out going to the bathroom or something. So he came in. Captain Gill was the battalion surgeon. I knew him, from the officers club and all that stuff. And he said, I got to look at this wound. So he takes his suit and cuts the bandage off and looks at it, and looks at my tag. He said, you got $1 million wound. I said, does that mean I can go home? He said, no, that ain't good enough for that. So he bandaged me up, sent me to the collecting station by Jeep. Go to the collecting station. I knew the officer, the doctor there. Hey, Moore, how you doing? I said, okay. He said, you need a drink? I said, yeah, I need a drink. So they had medicinal whiskey, So he had one of them vials that they have in the medical department and put the bottle down and all like that. I was smoking, and then I would pour myself a drink of whiskey and smoke a blunt and blow that smoke out and make it feel good. Then the ambulance came. So he sit up front with the driver. I said, okay, put the litter case in. So, been up all night again. That whiskey, riding along. Well, I had gotten a pistol off a German before that. It was a little 32 automatic, and I had one of them peddlers in the village make a shoulder holster. Riding along in this ambulance, hit this bump. I woke up at this great big face. Man, I had my stuff out. We had pulled in the 38th Evacuation Hospital to an outdoor drive-in movie. And they put me in the tent, and I could look right out the tent and see the Leaning Tower of Pisa. So then I was in there, I said to the nurse, well, they took me in the operating room and operated on my foot and put a cast on it and all that stuff. And so I went back to my quarters, to the tent that they assigned me. Went to the tent, I should say. And I said to the nurse, I said, can I take a shower? She said, well, why don't you wait till tomorrow? This is, I got hit at 7 o'clock in the morning, this is 7 o'clock at night. So I said, maybe that's a good idea. So I woke up the next morning and said, can I take a shower now? She said, yeah, you can take a shower. To hold that foot out, don't get no cast on. So I was taking a shower. We'd hold my foot outside the shower so it wouldn't get wet. So then we had a pretty good back. All the officers in the battalion were hurt some way or the other, wounded. So I'm laying there. I see this litter go by. Damn, that looked like Joe Mask. So I jumped up and hobbled after the thing and go in the next tent. Sure enough, it was Joe Mask. Joe had been shot through both thigh bones. Machine gun swooped right across him like that. And he had dirt in his hair and ears, and he had a cast on from here down to his feet, and they had a board across here to stabilize it. And water. I need some water. Now, hey, Joe. He's delirious. Joe, wake up. The doctor said, you know him? I said, yeah, that's Lieutenant Mayer from C Company. So I said, keep talking to him. Maybe you can stamp him out as delirium. So I did, and he woke up one day. Spencer, what are you doing here? You try to get up. I don't try to get up, Joe. I said, you've been hurt. And they had the bullets, they took out his leg. They had that hanging around his neck, a little thing of gauze. And last time I saw Joe, he was walking with a cane, but he's dead now because I was talking to a friend of his wife and told me Joe had died.
Did you ever rejoin your platoon?
Huh?
Did you ever rejoin your platoon?
Yeah, I was in the hospital 28 days. And I got sent back through the repo depot. On the way back from the hospital, this aide man run out and stopped the ambulance. Oh, and he's all excited. He's almost hysterical. Come on down this road. Went down there. 4 engineers got blowed up. Had one of them big anti-tank mines, German anti-tank mines, and it went off. Torso here, head there, with the eyeballs out on the cheekbone, arm here. That
right in front of where
blowed them to splitherings.
Where your truck was going to run through.
Huh?
Right where your truck was going through?
It was off on the side road. The road that we were going to take was that had been all cleared. Only thing is, when you went to the replacement depot, they give you 2 blankets, no mattress. You're sleeping on a cot. It's nothing but a canvas cot. I damn near froze to death in October, November.
How long did you stay in the repo depots?
Oh, not long. I was very uncomfortable. I want to get back to my unit.
Were they going to send you back to your unit or just
Oh,
to
yeah,
another?
you go back to your unit as soon as you're able, you go back to your unit. It's easier that way.
When you showed up back to your unit, did you have a bunch of new people with your platoon?
We were getting relieved by another regiment. So I knew the lieutenant. I can't think of his name, don't ask me. I said, how many clips you got? He said, oh, I got 3. I said, I'll give you 45 rounds. He said, 45 rounds? He said, I don't have no rounds at all. I said, you do what? You know where the hell you are? You're up here on the front. There's Germans over there. He had 3 empty clips, 2 in his pouch and one in his gun. So I had one up and turned it up and put that had those inverted. I inverted the clips and taped them together. Plus I had two 4 over here with the for the carbine. For the Thompson submachine gun, I had 3 45. 3. Yeah, I had the big clips, but a 30 round or 45 round or something. I had 3 of them hanging on the side, with on the gun I wanted to carry. But when I would report back to the unit, I had, because I hadn't gotten back to the aid station to get my Thompson. So I gave him all my loaded clips for his empty ones, because I'm being relieved. The only damn thing is I'm leaving Cerveza, walking back to Pia de Sana, which is open road, and we called it Purple Heart Lane. The only thing in our favor was it was nighttime, so the Germans couldn't see us. But that was as bad as true. I got shot at with 88.
Down that road?
Down that road. I'd gotten, in the spring of 45, I got transferred to the 365th Infantry Regiment, Company D. That's where I had my own Jeep. That's it. That picture that he had. That picture of me standing there right there.
Why were you transferred?
Well, they tried to get new blood into the regiments because they were going into the attack. And I guess they figured that we were too smart to get killed and wouldn't be effective as combat troops. That's the only thing I can imagine. Baker stayed with his company because he was a hero. Vernon Baker has won the Medal of Honor and the Distinguished Service Cross and so forth. He's the one that the white captain ran off and left.
Was this regiment still in the 92nd Division?
Oh, yeah. The only guy I know of is the 92nd Division. But see, I was in 365. That's where I got to be a mortar, 81 millimeter mortars. They had 3 sections, three second lieutenants and 1 first lieutenant. It was a platoon, in that platoon. It was the funniest thing I ever served, where an officer was in command of 81 millimeter mortars. But it was the infantry artillery till they got in. Well, it was no auxiliary artillery because they had a cannon company in the newer companies.
Did you do any fire missions with those mortars?
A couple, harassing mostly. We had a lot of harassing fire. But then, like I said, I got transferred to 365th, and they transferred me from 365th down to G4. G4 is Division Supply.
Was this because maybe you're wounded?
No, it's because I was black. That's what the hell, the whole thing.
Tell me what you mean.
Well, good. How you doing?
As supply, what was your job?
I got to be a pack mule commander to haul supplies up in the mountains where a Jeep couldn't go.
And you had people under you to help you?
I had a sergeant and two privates and 55 Italians. Young teenagers, some of them were. They had no home. because the Germans was either in their home or had blown their home up, destroyed their home. And, you know, parents had dispersed and everything. So they was out foraging for themselves. And their wages were a pack of chewing gum, a pack of cigarettes, and 6 cans of sea ration. You familiar with sea ration? You know, breakfast, dinner, and supper. 3 cans of biscuits. And
How was that duty of
that was
transfer?
good duty.
That was good for
That was
you?
one of the best duty I had. I could take my clothes off and get in the bathtub and take a bath. We commandeered 2 rooms and the use of the kitchen and the bathroom in this apartment place, which was on a reverse slope of a hill up near the marble quarries. In other words, we were here, and anything coming in from the German side would go over us like this. They couldn't hit us unless they had a mortar. Big blocks of marble. I mean, maybe 25 or 30 feet long and just as wide as it was long and high, maybe 10 feet high. And they had these saws in there set at different widths that would cut the marble. But all the machinery was going because the Germans confiscated all the machinery, all the rails for the narrow gauge railroad, and the steam engine, naturally. And I had an incident where I was walking there. I checked the animals. We had confiscated mules, donkeys, and horses. Had a couple of horses, some mules, but mostly they were donkeys. And I was walking, like I say, examining the mill, and this mule switched me and hit me across the face with his tail, and I jumped. And just as I jumped, the mule kicked at me and skinned my knee. But the Italians up there in the village, they thought I was the mayor, almost like I was the Pope. And they had made me a cane. I saw them make it, bend it and everything. It was about an inch thick. I took that cane, hit that mule alongside his jaw and knocked him to his knees for kicking me. So I got it okay. So when I go there and inspect the mules again, this one mule that kicked me and I hit with a cane, he'd run way down the end of the corral. And so he hoping I wouldn't come down there after him. Dan, how much further do you want me to go?
Well, we got about 20 minutes before this tape is up. How long did you serve in G4?
Oh, I say maybe 5 or 6 weeks.
And then what
It was
happened?
detail. I went back to my unit.
Did you go into combat after that time?
Well, I went back to Company D with the mortars. So,
Right.
you know, you fire a couple, whatever, harassing. The Germans were retreating. And,
Was your
they didn't
company
come-
continuously going forward?
Yeah, we was going forward, following along. And then, I say, maybe a week or 10 days before the war is over, they pull us off the line, and we run the prisoner of war camp,
As guards?
guards and stuff. Well, we had a bunch of, because the Germans was coming about home, giving up like flies.
Did they treat you all different? The Germans have any attitude toward you all because you were black?
They didn't like us. The black ones with arrows. Whatever the black says in German. Yeah, and you go to pick their picture, they would walk away. Like they'd be around the edge of a concertina wire stretched around, you know. And they would be inside there, and you go up to take some pictures, and they'd turn their backs and walk away.
Did you ever see any SS?
So one, after you've been captured and beaten up, busted lip, black eye, you see the footprints of somebody in the back of his pants. So I was sitting there doing, I don't know, whatever, with that picture you took of me during the war. And somebody said, they got some SS troops down there. I said, well, they do? I said, he said, yeah. I said, I'm going to take a walk down there and see what they look like real close up. You know, like I said, this guy was all beaten up and everything. And I went to turn around and bumped into the soldier, my buddy, that I hadn't seen in 6 to 8 months. And I lost him. I was so glad to see him. He had gotten transferred out of 372nd to the 365th as a replacement. And like I say, he was the street smart from Philadelphia. Teach me how to shoot crap and everything. Hey man, how you doing? I said, hey, good to see you. We hugged and almost kissed one another. We were so glad to see one another. We were real tight. Yeah, you want a camera? You had a German Leica, Agfa, and another one. I never could remember. So he threw this thing, give me an Agfa camera with a bellows type. And I started taking pictures. That's why you see pictures here in my photograph album. This is my personal photograph album. And I had the pictures enlarged that you see around here.
All right.
The same one here small. People say, how'd you get the film? That's all you had to have was cigarettes. They find stuff for it for something, you know. One position we had was in this lady's backyard. So she was very nice, and they would let us use the stove, and we always had somebody could do a little cooking and stuff to heat the rations up, hot some water, make some coffee. I taught the Italians how to eat corn on the cob in this little village. And she looked down the road one day, grabbed her head and said, me filio, my son is coming home. And she ran down and to greet him and like that, brought him on home and introduced him to us in Italian. We could speak Italian, you know, pretty good. She ran out in the backyard and grabbed his shovel and dug down like, come out there with a bobber, wiping it off with her apron. It was Italian grappa. It was about 150 proof liquor. Strongest stuff I ever had in my life. And I was drinking a lot of, everybody was drinking wine. You'd find wine in those cellars, those big casks, you know. If you jacked them up, you could get what was in the belly. See, the guys just got smart, they could jack them up and get what was in the belly, but that you couldn't get out ordinarily. Anyhow, we've been drinking that. And she went in the house and, you know, they come here and tell you, go in, and she had these little glasses that you couldn't get your thumb down in, and poured each one of us a drink and said, salute. And I went, salute like this, and took my breath. It was strong, God. Grappa. It's distilled red wine.
Do you recall where you were when the war ended in Europe?
I was in Modidi. I was up north.
What did you think when the war ended for you?
Oh, I was happy. How soon can I go home? Well, that turned out pretty good because I had a lot of points. They sent you home under the point system. I had service points because I'd been in the service a long time. My son was born while I was overseas. That gave me 5 more points. I was wounded. That gave me 5 more points. So I had a pretty good amount of points. So I went home.
So you had no worry about going to the Pacific?
No. I was worried about getting home. So
Was home New Jersey at this time then?
yeah, well, I was home in New Jersey, and then I had to go to Evansville to see my wife and son that I had never seen. So I had to teach a class. I went over as a MP on the ship, going over and coming back. I had to teach a class returning to civilian life. I had to work my way all the way back. And got some other guy be over there shooting crap. the officers were playing poker or whatever, and I had to go to the enlisted men and teach them, return to civilian life. So I was home when they burned that, when they bombed Nagasaki and what other place?
Hiroshima.
Hiroshima. See, because I was a high pointer. So I left in July of 44, and I left to come home in July of 45. So then I had to go to Fort McClellan after 30 days overseas leave. And
Is that where you were mustered out?
yeah, I told them, man, I had to go out of here because I killed somebody or they gonna kill me. You know, had a whack drivers. Army still segregated. Told me to go sit in the back of the bus. I said, you see all this stuff I got on my chest? Combat Infantry Badge, Bronze Star, Purple Heart, 3 battle stars, before Pearl Harbor ribbon, American Defense ribbon, and you gonna tell me to go sit in the back of the bus? I said, I'm gonna sit right behind you and breathe on your neck.
Did you do it?
Yes, I did. And I was ready to go back to war. So anyhow, this colonel stood up and said, you're down here and you can't expect the Army to do this and that and about the segregation, about the condition down here. Anybody don't want to get up can get up and walk out. Boom, I was out of there. And I come out.
How did it feel to see your wife and child
Oh,
the
that
first
was
time?
great. It was the best thing. My son was 3 months old.
Did you settle in Evansville or did you go back to New Jersey?
Come to Jersey.
And the wife went with you, of course.
Yeah.
After the war was over, did you use the GI Bill to get any education or money?
I went to college. That's why I didn't have any more children. 'Cause I didn't have the money because they was only paying $75 a month, something like that.
Did you join any veterans organizations after the war?
You know, the American Legion, and I joined the VFW, and I joined the Purple Heart Association.
Thank you very much. Is there any last words you'd like to say?
Well, I hate to see the kids going to a foreign country when there's not enough of them.
Well,
They
thank you.
start a battle here, the Americans rush in, then they start one over here. They don't have enough troops to keep them both occupied. This batch goes over here to quell this one. They're on the way to get blown up. Stupid as that. All the generals, I won't say all of them, four generals I think it was, resigned rather because the president wouldn't take their advice. Hitler did the same damn thing. And he kicked his butt.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moore.
My pleasure. I go out here and go to lunch now.